Greetings and welcome back to 50 Shades of Beige. So recently a game came out that I'm really excited about. It's called Foreverwinter. It is an indie game, kind of dystopian horror survival game that I'm super excited about. And I had a chance to play their pre-release demo, and it's super cool. So today I thought we'd do something fun. Since this game is about scavenging in a post-apocalyptic wasteland, I figured I'd play the game like a true scav, and we'll use a machine that is 100% salvage. We're gonna build it and see how it performs in the game. So let's go ahead and hop right into it. So I picked out this Dell Optiplex 9020, and I picked it mostly because it's got this Core i7 badge down at the bottom. I haven't opened it up yet. So let's go ahead and have a take a look and see what we're working with here, and then we'll come up with some ideas on what's gonna be the best way forward. Looks like everything is mostly intact. I'll get you in up a little bit closer here so you can see what we're working with. Some sort of a cut down half PCB GPU that doesn't require a power connector. Hopefully we have a CPU underneath this cooler. No RAM, unfortunately. It looks like our power supply and associated connectors are all there, which is good news. So the first thing I usually like to do with these Dell machines, especially older Optiplexes like this 9020 mid tower here, is I like to get the CPU cooler off ASAP, because usually what happens, I don't know what kind of thermal compound Dell uses, but it tends to dry up fairly quickly, like within a couple years. So just take that off. We can identify what CPU we've got in here, and then we can also repaste it while we're at it. So for those of you who are curious, I picked this machine up from a local recycler that I actually found on eBay. And they have kind of like a pick through trash kind of pile, I guess, for stuff that they don't want to spend their time actually like fixing or whatever. So we're taking a little bit of a gamble here on this Dell machine, but I'm hoping that we can get away with putting some RAM in it, cleaning it up, and calling it a day. And it looks like we're working with an i7 4770, which is a little bit older than I had hoped, but it is a 9020, so that's about as good as you're gonna get from Dell during this time period. All right, so based on the sticker down at the bottom here, we've got a GTX 645 OEM. This is a GK106 die, so it's a Kepler card, only 1 gig of VRAM. Unfortunately, I don't think that's gonna get us anywhere close to playing the game we wanna play here, so we're gonna go ahead and have to swap that out, but everything else I'm going to leave intact. Let me go grab some RAM and a few other things from the boneyard here and see what we can put together. And I went ahead and pulled out a brand new tube of Arctic MX4. So we'll go ahead and put that on there. There we go. Good enough for the girls' Wii date. And I went ahead and grabbed a little 4 gig stick of DDR3 1600. That'll be just fine for what we're doing here. And we'll slap our cooler back on. This is just to see, or really to make sure that everything boots before we continue, because I have some fun stuff planned for this build, but it's all for naught if this doesn't boot. And this is a salvage PC, so you would never really know what you're gonna get into. And then we'll talk about what we're gonna do about this potato GPU that will not run Foreverwinter. All right, now that we had a chance to test everything and make sure that our system actually boots, let's talk about GPUs. Now we're gonna need something with at least 8 gigs of VRAM. So I was looking through my cards and I found this bare PCB here. This is actually an EVGA GTX 1080, and it's meant to have a water block mounted to it. You can tell by looking at the mounting holes here. Now obviously this is a salvage card, so it didn't come with a water block, and I certainly don't have any aftermarket ones just laying around, although it would be nice. We don't have EK water blocks money here at 50 Shades of Beige, at least not yet. So that got me thinking, what are some ways that we could cool this card without spending a lot of money? And first I thought, well, I do have a GTX 1070, but I really don't want to rip the cooler off that. I mean, that seems a bit excessive. And then I was digging through and I found a busted up old GTX 1060. And so I went ahead and pulled the heatsink off of that. Here's our heatsink off the 1060. Now, before we get started here, just know and understand what I'm going to do with this GPU is not ideal. It's not recommended. It's not safe. You could ruin your graphics card, you could electrocute yourself, and you absolutely will lessen the life of the electrical components on the board. Now, with that being said, let's get into the jank here. So the most important thing about this particular cooler is it does have a single direct contact heat pipe on the bottom, because you really are going to need that with a GTX 1080. And also, the mounting holes are in the right spot, and it actually has cooling for memory up on the top at least. So I can hear you saying already, well, hey Shades, what the heck, man? You've got to cool off that VRM. You got two 8-pin power connectors at the top there. That's a pretty high performance EVGA VRM there. And to that I say, yes, you are correct. And that's where our good old friend double-sided adhesive thermal tape comes in handy. Once again, I will admit this is not ideal. However, it is effective. Maybe not the most effective, but effective nonetheless. We're gonna pull these little Raspberry Pi heat sinks together. I'm thinking I can stack one up, maybe use these for memory there. And then for the back side, I have this broken M.2 heat sink. We won't talk about how this happened, but it happened nonetheless. And it just happens to be perfect size to fit over the back side here. Then it's just a matter of like figuring out how to get a fan mounted to this thing, and we'll be golden. So let's go ahead and get started with that. What I decided to do is pull out some M.2 heat sinks. Got one right here for VRM, and I had to kind of even out this spacing between these SMD capacitors and these chokes. And this will lay perfectly flat once we've got a little bit of pressure on it. But you can see there, basically got it lined up. This is probably not the best way. You know, you definitely don't want multiple layers of thermal interface material. But the fact of the matter is I just don't have pads thick enough. The nice thing is though, I've tested this thermal tape quite extensively, and it just basically passes heat right through, so that's good news. It's pretty good at conducting heat for what it is anyway. Pretty good. I mean, it's about as good as I'm going to be able to get just by working with stuff I've got laying around the lab here. It's far from perfect indeed, but it should get the job done, and this guy is just long enough. That's what she said. Get everything loaded up and ready to go here. No visible air gaps, so that's good. One thing I will say, if you are going to use the double-sided thermal tape method like I used here, be sure not to overlap the tape on top of a single component, because it kind of defeats the purpose of using the tape. You want to minimize the thickness. And then the other thing I'd mention is once it sticks once, that's the last time it's going to stick. So if you have to pull it off or rearrange it, just start from scratch, otherwise you're going to have a bad time. All right, I think we're all set here. Let's go ahead and grab our trusty Arctic MX4 thermal compound here. I had originally wanted to use a 120 mil fan in like a diagonal configuration like this, so that we could get good airflow over the radiators for our heat pipes. Unfortunately, this causes problems. It's too big. Now the only other fan that I have that will fit is this Rosewill 80mm fan, but unfortunately that fits right over the top. So I mean, it's good, but it's also not cooling what I want to be cooled. So instead we're just gonna have to make sure we have really good case airflow, and I might even mount a fan on the bottom of our Optiplex case that's like off-centered over here a little bit, just to hit our VRM and stuff. I am slightly concerned that the VRM on this super premium GTX 1080 that was meant to be water cooled is going to get really hot really fast. I'm looking at these two 8-pin connectors and I'm like, not ideal. Either way, the jink is off the charts. Now I grabbed a few of my favorite tool, the zip tie. Definitely an underrated tool in the beige arsenal. And we're just going to basically zip tie this in counter cornered. So because we can't really fit it, there's no place to put a zip tie down here. But I do have a mounting hole here thanks to all these extra mounting holes EVGA left for the water block that's supposed to go on this. Just a little pro tip, if you are going to use this method of putting a fan on a PCB where you're hooking zip ties through PCB holes, make sure to leave a little bit of slack because you don't want to put undue pressure on the PCB. That will cause it to crack over time. These zip ties aren't going to last long anyway because they're sitting right on these heat pipes, and there is a heat cycling effect on this plastic that makes it want to crack. So there's no sense in putting undue tension on the zip tie. As long as the fan is close enough to snug, you'll be fine. Here's our final product. The jank is strong with this one. Ended up using 3 M.2 coolers, some Raspberry Pi heat sinks, some more Raspberry Pi heat sinks, and then double-sided thermal adhesive tape. Well, we've done so much work on this graphics card, and I made the rookie mistake of not checking to make sure it would fit before I continued. So we're in it deep now, boys. We might as well double down. What do you say? All right, so we have a slight change of venue here because we need to drill out this hard drive cage right here. Now, Dell, in all of their wisdom, doesn't use screws for their caddies. They use rivets. And if you look back in there, I'm not sure how well the camera's gonna get it. We've got a couple in the back on each side, and then if we flip this over, looks like we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and maybe 6 that we're gonna have to drill out. Hopefully there's none in the back because that's gonna be a real pain. And remember, boys and girls, it's always important to wear proper PPE like gloves and redneck eye protection so that you don't hurt yourself while you're drilling out these metal rivets. Well, that's what you get for using the wrong drill bit. We got it, finally. All right, let's get this thing back upstairs. Now that we're sure our GPU is going to fit, the next question is, how do we want to power it? Now, there are a couple different ways we can go about this. I had a look at the label on this Dell power supply. I am not confident in our ability to power a GTX 1080 off of the SATA ports. I kind of wanted to do that, but the fact that there's 2 8-pin plugs and this is an EVGA water-cooled 1080, so it's probably got a decent overclock and the BIOS is going to ask for a pretty large amount of power. I'm thinking it's better we just leave this for the hard drives, which is what we're going to do. Instead, I went ahead and pulled out this Apevia 400 watt job. I've actually used this for a lot of my projects. We used it for the cardboard box PC and a few other things. This has just enough juice. It does have one native 8-pin, and then the other 8-pin is for the CPU only. And then what we'll do is we'll steal 2 of these Molex or SATA ports with an adapter. Then I had to think to myself, well, where do we want to put this thing? I'll show you. So I'm actually going to slide it right through the front, upside down. I'm not terribly worried about cable management just yet, just because we're kind of still in the prototyping phase, if you will. There we go. This guy can just be zip tied in so it doesn't go anywhere. And with the fascia on it, we We should have just enough room to run our power cable out of the front. Unfortunately, we will have to delete the DVD-ROM drive, which I kind of wanted to keep, but it's not the end of the world. Well, I don't know if it can get much more janky than that, boys. This is going to be exciting. Let's go ahead and finish plugging everything in and do a quick smoke test, make sure everything works, and we'll take it from there. Now for storage, we've got two different drives here. We're going to go with this WD Blue 1 terabyte SATA drive. These are pretty low quality, pretty cheap SATA drives from a couple years ago. And I also have this HP SSD S700, also 1 terabyte. I went ahead and loaded all the games on this HP drive, and we're going to boot off the WD Blue drive. And hopefully that all turns out okay. Now we do need to add a little bit of gaming flair.
All right, there's my flair, okay? And this is me expressing myself.
So I added these G-Skill DDR3 1600 RAM sticks. We've got some blue RGB on our fan here. Unfortunately, our Dell system here doesn't have a regular 4-pin fan connector, so we're gonna have to run one off of SATA. I want to add some dedicated cooling for our VRM down here. Ideally, it would be pointed up, but I'm about fed up with this project. I don't want to drill any more holes. So instead, we're going to create a little air tunnel here. Alright, this is sort of our last obstacle here. My adapter is only for a 3-pin voltage regulated fan. I need this to work with a 4-pin fan. So I'm just chopping this end off and crossing my fingers. I really wasn't planning on doing any soldering tonight, and I don't have any shrink wrap or anything, so this is our last chance to get this done tonight. I know it ain't pretty, but it is what it is. This should, there we go. That'll be fine. Go ahead and do the right thing and just pretend like I didn't see that. And our Optiplex 9020 is all dressed up and ready for the dance. Got our GTX 1080 mounted in there quite nicely. Everything else looks okay. We upgraded the RAM, did a few other little things there. Let's go ahead and see how she does. Alright, and here's the moment of truth here. We're going to go ahead and load into Forever Winter. Now, just a quick disclaimer, I've had several problems getting this game to load. In fact, sometimes it loads, other times it doesn't. There have been a series of errors and problems, and I can't quite nail it down. We've done driver updates. Right now I'm on hotfix 3.0, which is the one that just came out, so I'm hoping we'll have some better luck with that. We're at 1080p low with resolution scaling at 50%. I hope that's enough to get our system kind of where it needs to be. And here we are just in the training mission. And I'd say, yeah, this game does look pretty nice. Unfortunately, we've got quite a bit of pop-in with the textures and the lighting effects. That's kind of to be expected with a lower-end CPU. I'm kind of surprised to see we're only getting 14 or 15 FPS here. And GPU utilization is up there at 96%, so that's definitely where our bottleneck is. Just seems a bit odd to me that we're kind of hung up this low. I really expected more out of the GTX 1080. Now that being said, the GTX 1080 definitely has not aged nearly as well as the 1080 Ti has, but still, I would expect this type of performance out of like, I don't know, a 1060 or 1070. Anyway, it's a little disappointing. We're gonna try scaling down to 1280 by 720, but I'm not sure I'm gonna be able to get the game to actually launch at that resolution. All right, I was able to get the game to launch at 1280 by 720. This is not a capture from that launch because the capture card would not work at all in that resolution. However, I found it interesting that we still maxed out at about 20 FPS, so turning the resolution down to that low with the scaling at 50% on top of that and the details at low, I really expected more. And that being said, once again, this is an early release game, so these are kind of the joys of dealing with early release stuff. Clearly the game's not optimized. Obviously, we're in Unreal Engine 5 here, so the GTX 1080 is probably in a little bit over its head to begin with. But I have high hopes for this game. I think Fundog Studios has a great idea here, great concept. I'm really excited to see where they take it. In the meantime, I have a plethora of other budget hardware and things like that, but I think until they get some more optimizations done, it's kind of useless. If it won't run on a GTX 1080, It won't run on most cards of that generation, so anything older than like 2017, I doubt we'll get any good results out of. Now, one side note here, big asterisk for this PC, I went ahead and ran 3D Mark Time Spy, and this GTX 1080 scored about 15 to 20% lower than the average GTX 1080 paired with the same CPU and motherboard. So I'm a little concerned that maybe this GPU has some sort of a problem or it's being throttled somewhere. Now, given the circumstances around the graphics card and how we put everything together, I wouldn't be surprised to see that. That's just a limitation of the theme at this point. This is a scav PC with scavenged parts, and sometimes you just don't win. So the VRM temperature was okay. I used a temperature probe on that. The memory temperature seemed fine. The hotspot temperature seemed fine. So I don't think the GPU is like power throttling itself or anything like that, especially since the GPU utilization was so high. I'm just kind of wondering if maybe there's a bottleneck somewhere else. Anyway, I'm not surprised because I literally found that GTX 1080 laying in the trash. I'm surprised it worked at all. It came from a recycling center. It did not have a heatsink. It has a pretty wicked bend in it. It's definitely had some sort of performance degradation over time. So you may have better luck with your GTX 1080 in this game. However, considering the fact that we turned the resolution down to 1280 by 720 and we still didn't break 20 FPS, that tells me that our friends over at Fundog Studio definitely have some optimizations to do to make this run on lower end hardware. And mind you, we are well below the minimum spec listed for this game, so they may not do those optimizations. Anyway, that's going to be all for now. Be sure to stay tuned. I've got plenty of videos on the way, and in the meantime, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you soon.